After morning, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, and sisters. Welcome back to the Coach Dave Le Mans Ultimate Championship. It is the turn of the pro split for round number 5 here at the wonderful Tifosi territory of Monza. My name is Chris Buxton. I'll be one of your commentators throughout tonight's festivities. We have got 16 cars that are currently doing the rounds right now. But joining me in the box too, well, we're up to 18. So a few more have appeared in the last few moments. But joining me in the box, as always, a great pleasure to introduce Edward Hunter.
Oh, hey there, Chris. There we go. Well, welcome back to VMS. It has been a little while, but it's great to get the gold split back underway. I'm sorry my voice sounds not quite 100%. I think
You've been a busy boy, haven't you?
Yeah, 90%. Yeah, I was commentating on go-karting in real life and getting a little bit sunburned, but luckily I put plenty of lotion on, so I should be mostly in one piece and not flaking into pieces as this broadcast goes on. But yeah, Monza, here we are. Temple of Speed, as you say, home of the Tifosi. Plenty of Ferraris here, all fighting it out for the Hypercar Championship. But in LMGD3, of course, this is our first race post the latest update, so we are going to see things a little bit moving and shaking around as the BOP. We get to see where everyone really stands down the straights, especially for the first time in the gold split, of course. And everybody in platinum split might be looking on with interest ahead of that season restarting soon. Of course, we did unfortunately have to essentially, we're not quite worked out. There's a vote going on at the moment, but essentially the 2.4 hours of Le Mans, which was going to be one of the showpiece parts of the season, it's almost certainly going to be delayed till later in the season because there was a little bit of a bug in the game that's being worked out yet. Oh, they won't like me mentioning that, will they? Okay, no, everything's fine. There was just a scheduling conflict. There we go. That should work. Anyway,
protester running down the track. That's what it was.
Yes, exactly. Just like an Irish priest, what was his name? Neil Horan, who got he made a bit of a name for himself, just running on the track at every that can happen in sim racing. I guess the equivalent in Le Mans Ultimate is the Porsche safety car, just randomly appearing when people disconnect and reconnect there. Maybe Neil Horan's driving the safety car, who knows, with a religious placard either side of the car. But never mind, don't read those, ladies and gents. Anyway, yeah, gold split championship. Like I say, very much in play. Like it's three Ferraris. I say four Ferraris actually because Adam Zappler, a little bit adrift of Menard Howes and Adamu. Yeah, and GD3 of course. William Giovannini, the very very clear leader as well in that BMW GD3. Much more mixed up in the GD3 standings compared to Hypercar. As Yukamaki Yupi, that doesn't look like a Mustang, and neither does the car behind.
No. No shadow underneath it. Ironically, that's the first thing I spotted. But
hopefully that's coming for qualifying. We'll get the shadows ready for qualifying.
Sure thing. So let's have a look at the current championship standings then. We've alluded to who our top 3 of our various classes are. So Jimmy Menard, Jack Howes, Francesco Dami, and Adam Sapler leading the way in the Ferrari class. But will they stay there? That is the golden question. Jimmy Menard, Jack Howes, very, very close. And was just 3 points separating them. Only a further 10 back to Francesco Dami. The Fasicas, our lead Peugeot, in 5th. Lucas Kreuzer in 6th. The lead Toyota. Our lead Porsche is Christian Bonani. Then Pascal Gehring in 8th with Martin Mergli in 9th with Romain Marchand in 10th position. So the tail end of the hypercar class, Sakin Sobe is 11th. Roman Freire with the ever well, I always kind of comment that the livery is contentious. It's only contentious to our IT team because Rome keeps picking the livery he didn't sign up with. Olivier Demelians in 13th, Marvin Burson 14th, Tobias Blumschein in 15th with Yanis Bagheera, Lexi Taylor, and Davide Chiesa not yet getting off the mark currently in their respective cars. So GT3, we have William Giovannini with, exactly as Ed was saying, quite a stranglehold on the championship, 83.18 clear of Juha Mäki-Jopi in the yellow Mustang. But hot on his tails is the Ferrari of Marco Bischoff, just 2 points adrift. A further 3 back is Zach Doran in the next of the Mustangs. And then it's Adrian Kibaki in 5th in the BMW with Nico Barkley in the next of the Mustangs. 6th with Gina Weissenberger in 7th, Nick Daly 8th, Marco Kasperczyk in 9th. Alongside him in the lead Aston is Bersuanito and 10th position. Then the tail end of the field, Jerome Mitral with 10 points, with Liam Rance, who, well, we definitely saw Liam in the practice. I hope he's still with us. In the Aston, then Aaron de Petista with a single point, yet to get off the mark is Rune Bobers, Gustav Schubert, Jeremy Litas, Marcus Eng, and Maxime Wendler, yet to get off the duck. But still plenty of the season to go. Still plenty of racing and plenty of points out there to get.
Yep, and as you say that, Chris, qualifying has just begun then as we run on board with points leader William Giovannini. Of course, it was Yukamaki Yuppie in that bright yellow Mustang that got his first win last time out at a Sebring about a month ago, of course. Brilliant drive in tricky conditions there to win, to take that first win for the Finns. So yeah, Giovannini, who of course was so brilliant at Fuji in the second round of the championship, has not quite been looking as strong in the last couple of rounds, despite the gap. Of course, he was second in round 3 in Bahrain, and then third, last time at Sebring. Then, so sort of picking up the pieces on the lower steps of the podium. But yeah, Giovannini still got plenty of pace, and he's been showing up to the races and delivering each time he does, crucially. So Giovannini's still on track with the big lead that he has, but if somebody else can start building up momentum, get a load of wins in a row, then the Italian could be in trouble. But here we go, he starts his first flying lap, Chris.
Into the first chicane, then heavy on the brakes, down through the gears, into first, and just weave your way through. Those curbs are absolutely vicious in the first chicane, in the Rettifilio. I know it's not technically still called the Rettifilio, don't care, still calling it that. I'm old school. Cavagrande then hug that inside line, foot absolutely nailed to the floor, keeping the BMW hard over to the right-hand side. Then about 125 meters, hit the brake pedal with as much force as you can give it. Now through the Dall'Orgia, the second chicane. It was down to second gear for the second chicane. Now into the Lesmo's first one. You can see how the car is just bouncing around. It's relatively smooth, but even still, there are still a few bumps, and there are cambers in those Lesmos. That's William Giovannini flirting there with the track limits on the exit of second Lesmo. Got to get that exit right. You carry, if you get that one wrong, you carry that mistake a very, very long way. Over to the right-hand side, Ascari now braking just around the 100-meter board, down to third, ride the apex on the the first part of the chicane, flirt with the sausage curb on the exit, and he's binned it. He has decided enough's enough on that one. So so next up is going to be Zach Doran in the Mustang that's been following him. So has he continued on? It looks like he's still pressing on. We'll see how the times stack up.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, of course, as these updates go on, in terms of not just the pace of these cars, but we might even be seeing who is shelling out that little bit extra for the custom liveries, I guess. See, Maciej Kustchik, oh, purple, almost. That is a 150.149. That's the first time on the board in that McLaren. And Kustchik, of course, who was looking very, very strong last season before falling out the top 3 in Contender. Was one of the favourites going in, has not really delivered so far. Could the BOP have come just in time to save the season for the McLaren drivers? Well, not on the evidence of that, because Kabaki has just gone 2 tenths faster, and Galetti in between as well, as we see Jerome Mitral has clearly joined the session a bit late in the suspiciously Porsche 911 shaped Corvette there, as now we watch Nico Barclay just circulating the track. Of course, very, very highly rated Nico Barclay, but a little bit outshone in some of the podium fights so far this season. Needs to qualify well if he wants to get his championship challenge back on track and back underway. This lap looking solid so far. Nico Barclay, of course, 6th in the standings with best result of 4th at Bahrain, and missed the previous round at Sebring. Across the line he comes, not a great middle sector, and it looks like he is going to remain much further down, maybe a bit of off track on that lap. Giovannini, though, looking much more on top of things on this particular lap, in an especially strong first sector, so he just needs to nail this final corner at the Alboreto Parabolica then, Chris.
William Giovannini has seen all 3 steps of the podium so far throughout the season. Oh, look at the tail getting very, well, I think very, very loose. you saw that he really threw the nose in, and the car really did stick quite well. You saw the tail get a little bit loose to help the rotation of the car, and nailed the throttle. Lost a tiny bit of time in that last sector, though. Whether that was because of the slide on the final turn, we don't know. But Giovannini gets the top time, 1:48.995, puts him to the top of the tree. Zach Doran in second. There is Liam Rance in the Aston Martin. He's just starting a time 1:48.995. His target to beat. Schubert in the 91 Porsche has got himself on the board, a couple of seconds off the top time. 12 GT3s are now with us. That's Kabaki that has just dethroned Zach Doran. So it's a BMW front row in our GT3s currently. Only 2/10 at the top of the tree. That's one missed braking zone essentially. So still very, very close for our GT3s.
Yeah, and of course, with the update, there's been just minor changes to the sort of tire modeling, how the GT3s, each of them responds to certain inputs and in certain situations. As you see, Liam Rance 2 thousandths faster than Giovannini, but then completely loops it round at Lesmo 1. So yeah, the rear arrived first and arrives at the barrier before the front does. So yeah, there we go. That's Liam Rance potentially done for. He's gone back to the pit lane. He's not going to get another go at that. So Rance will start at the back and hope to slipstream his way back to the front. But we hear the Aston Martin was one of the ones that a lot of the Aston Martin drivers are ruining their choice now because it was such a strong option at the beginning of the season. And Liam Rance, of course, missed most of the beginning of the season. So he's come back after having a bit of bad luck in Fuji, where he was running in the top 5 and then got taken out by a Hypercar, I think. And now basically the Aston Martin is a lot less friendly to drive. So yeah, Liam Rance, he's not making things easy for himself, and he'll be hoping to have a cleaner run in the race. If you look at Weisenberger trying to get the 88 Ford Mustang over the line, he's looking 2/10 down in both sectors. This is looking like a good time that might get him up to P4. Is it going to be P4? Yes, it is.
Nicely done. BMW Ford, BMW Ford, your front runners in the GT3 category at the moment. Juha Mäki-Jopi now in the correct looking car. It was a blue Porsche when we looked at him last time. That is quite clearly his yellow Mustang. So riding then on board with the Finn, a little bit uncomfortable coming out of the second Lesmo. Now, for those unfamiliar with, Zach Doran, nicely done, 300ths behind Giovannini. Very, very close indeed. Now, for those unfamiliar with the qualifying setup that we use here in this championship, it's a 25-minute session, but each class only gets 10 minutes. So the GT3s have their 10 minutes. There is then a 5-minute crossover where last laps are completed and then GT3s get out of the way. And then the hypercars come out when there is 10 minutes remaining on the clock. So it's not going to be another 16.5 minutes of qualifying for the GT3s. You are using a lot of that inside curve there. So the GT3s only have another minute or so to start any laps they're going to do. Juha Mäki-Jopi swings over the line, and that's going to slot him up into 6th position. He's currently 2nd in the championship, winner last time out in Sebring, as you mentioned, Ed. So yeah, he will hope for a little bit higher up in the order than that, but it's not where you start, it's where you finish.
Yeah, I never heard Yuki Mäki-Jopi referred to as using too much inside curb there, or whatever it was he said. Interesting change to the last name there. But we also see a couple of comments in the chat. Pancake, before the stream even started, you see Zach Duran, just having a much slower final sector there. We see Pancake in the chat says Zach Duran dominance will bore fans. So at the moment, that's not the session we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing a thrilling fight for pole position with just fine margins between Giovannini and Duran. And of course, the Mustangs did seem generally to have the edge over one lap in the qualifying sessions. So at the moment, there's been a little bit of a swing because Kabaki is not only about 4 thousandths behind Duran with that most recent lap as well. I think this is very, very good news if you're a BMW driver, especially, of course, if they've still got that advantage come the race that they had in those endurance. Remember, we saw how strong Giovannini was at Fuji, but even before the update. Let's see if that's still the case once we get our endurance race 1 hour 40 minutes underway here at Monza. Of course, very different layout, but still plenty of slipstreaming to come. Galetti has got his Aston Martin up to 5th, which is good news for Liam Rance, who will take no further part in this session, having looped it round into the barriers and destroyed his car. Kabaki, not a great first sector, but he might be able to fight back in sector 2, of course. But losing a 10th means he's got so much work to do, and only about 4 minutes left in the session if he wants to make it an all BMW front row.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult to make up considering how close those times are. Just 300ths of a second, well, 3.5 hundredths of a second separate your top three. And then in 400ths of a second separate Weissenberger and Galetti, albeit half a second back from ultimate pace. What can Zach Doran do, though? He's just coming through the Parabolica. So he's 3,000s down in the first sector, 2,000s up in the second one. Bear in mind, it takes a tenth rather, for the average person to blink. That tells you how narrow those margins are. No improvement in position for Zach Doran. He gave you absolutely very, very close. Gave you everything he had. Just couldn't quite find that extra little bit of magic that Giovannini found earlier in the session.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Liam Rance will get in trouble with this because we saw him back it into the barrier, lose the rear wing, and teleport back to the pit lane. But it's showing him as in sick position there. So I'm not sure if you're strictly allowed to do that or not. I'm pretty sure the rules are clear. Maybe Liam doesn't know. Maybe Liam will argue, well, I could have got back to the pits, but I just wanted to get out of danger and save everybody some time there. I think he might get a little bit of a telling off at the very least, possibly a penalty incoming his way for the next event then. Maybe a back of the grid penalty would be the standard procedure from previous rounds. It has been a long while since we've last done one of these sessions, even longer for Liam, who hasn't driven since Fuji back in, I think, March or April, essentially, as we see Nico Barclay. 2.5 minutes left to go of qualifying, coming out of the final corner now. Such a long one. You see he's so eager to get back on the power there, and the rear stepping out, and I think he knows it's not going to be an improvement. Barclay will have to settle for 8th then. So Zach Duran is I think the only one who could maybe topple Giovannini, as we see the Corvette coming in. Is that Robin Duporion, who I think is on the reserve list, and he's certainly been practicing while he's been away. He's gotten up to 9th, only a second off the pace. So that's a very, very solid effort from Robin there. Whoa, and Liam Rance in the gravel again.
Yeah, he's doing the. So he deposited his rear wing to one of the marshals earlier on, and has now explored the Italian countryside once again over at Parabolica. So back into the pits. He can do no more in this session. So just 2 more minutes then for this crossover part. So the GT3s get out of the way, and then the hypercars, they can leave the pit garage. They cannot leave the pit lane until 10 minutes is remaining on the clock. So it is the BMW of Giovannini, our GT3 championship leader, on pole, with Zach Duran in the Mustang joining him only 300ths of a second behind. Then it is Kabaki in the next of the BMWs that lines up on row 2 alongside Weissenberger. Excellent effort there. Weissenberger, where is he in the championship? He's 7th. He has seen the podium. He was 3rd at Imola, but has not quite managed to match that initial pace. Was not with us at Sebring last time out. So he'll be happy with that, starting in 4th on the second row. Galetti and Rance, the Aston Martins, albeit Liam Rance may well be told off for setting a time. But the Astons both, someone's getting a little bit eager with the right foot coming out of the pit lane, the pit box. Then it is Juha Markiopi in 7th alongside Nico Barkley, 2 Mustangs on the 4th row. Duporion in the Corvette alongside Kasperschik in the McLaren on row 5, with Schubert in the sole GT3 Porsche alongside the second of our Corvettes of Mitral. So Mitral not getting a representative lap time in there. And apparently is a Porsche in the front. But we can ignore that. We've already know that those skins are slightly incorrect. But now our hypercars, we have 8 of them joining us for tonight's festivities. So they can sit at the end of the pit lane until the timer goes under 10 minutes. And then they will have their qualifying session get underway. That means that they don't have an advantage. So you could argue, well, hang on a minute, the hypercars could technically come straight back out as soon as the GT3s finish their session. They get extra time. No, they're not allowed to leave the pit lane until 10 minutes is remaining on the clock. Someone's not moving, which is curious. Most of the hypercars have moved. Someone has not, which is a bit odd. So looks like we've got some of our hypercars on circuit. We will. Looks like we're having a bit of technical issue here. We'll catch up with what is going on. So, okay, so it looks like all of our hypercars now out on track. All 8 then are ready to do battle. Jimmy Menard has not got his arch nemesis of Jack Howells in the session tonight as we ride on board with fellow Ferrari Francesco Adamu. Half of our present hypercars are indeed the Italian mark. The Tifosi, or the virtual Tifosi, will be cheering them on in full force. So Francesco Adamu currently sits in third, winner of the race in Bahrain 2 races ago. 2 further podiums for Francesco. If it wasn't for Imola, terrible result there, comparatively speaking. He'd be right up there hounding Jimmy Menard. Still enough races and points available, though. Jimmy Menard is not running off into the distance. Speaking of the championship leader, there he is. I was going to say car number 50. Well, he is car number 50, but so is Butsin at the back of the current hypercar list. Both of our Peugeots are car number 93, because of course they are. Adam Sapler, at least, is in a different number Ferrari, so that's very kind of him. Jimmy Menard then coming out of Parabolica, hugging that inside line, bouncing along, and we will see then how he times out. Well over 300 kilometers an hour, way before they get to the braking zone. Now, down through the gears for the hypercar. Even they need to come down into first. They are so clumsy to drive at such a slow pace. Need to be careful with the right foot that you don't spit the tail into the dust. And then nail the throttle through the firewall all the way through Curva Grande. Again, you see how the car's just bouncing around. This track is, like I say, still relatively smooth, but these cars are so stiffly sprung that they will bounce around on, a pebble. They could count how many legs are on the spider that they run over. They are that stiffly sprung. Lesmo 1, keeping the car nice and steady. Now Lesmo 2, again, turned in too early. I had to get out of that. So this lap is pretty much ruined. Carry on for practice if nothing else. We turned in that little bit too early, a little too eager to get into the corner, and realized it immediately and pulled straight back out. So that definitely would have cost him a few tenths. So car getting a little bit unsettled, hitting the apex at the beginning part of Ascari. Still pressing on though, still giving it plenty. So he's setting a time, even with the little bit uncomfortable line through Lesmo 2. Break at 50 meters, down to third for Parabolica. Let the car just wander a little bit over to the right, then hug that inside line again, and then banzai to the line. Where does that put Jimmy Menard? Second currently. Well, no, now Adam Kreuzer has put the Toyota on the top of the tree. That'll annoy the Tifosis. There was a lot of T's in that sentence. Marvin Butsin gets his time on the board as well. Olivier Demelian in one of the Peugeots. I think he's actually being chased by the other one of Fazekas. We'll see what he's able to do. Yep, Barnabas Fazekas is indeed chasing his stablemate. Not actually teammates, they're just wearing the same colour shirt. Either way, an interesting way of pegging your performance against your fellow, well, in this case, Peugeot runner. So Fazekas currently 5th in the qualifying order, as he is in the championship. Pretty consistent results for Fazekas. 5th in Imola, 7th in Fuji, 6th in Bahrain, and 5th in Sebring. Is our lead Peugeot runner. Pascal Gehring is the second one, who is not with us tonight, with Olivier Demelian down in 13th in the championship overall. Not had such a successful season as Barnabas Fazekas. But, consistency is still king. Oh, we've got more times getting onto the board. Bonini has put the Porsche into 4th, splits some of the Ferraris. Never mind. So Bonini, it's now Kreuzer. So Bonini and Kreuzer are arguing for pole at the moment. That is now in the hands of back in the hands of the Toyota. As Fazekas crosses the line, 134.344 his time. No improvement. He remains in 6th at the moment. So it's Toyota and Porsche here in Tifosi territory. Francesco Adamu is our lead Ferrari, just 19 thousandths of a second ahead of current championship leader Jimmy Menard, who won in Fuji and has seen second in Bahrain and Sebring. Not have a good run in Imola. Adamu has parked it. Has he? Okay. Oh, sorry, Adam Sapler. Now, I will say, production actually did say Adam, and my brain turned that into Adamu. I am blaming the heat. I am British. I am sticking to it. So Adam Sapler has parked the currently 5th place Ferrari. So he will do no further time. Oh, you'd have felt that one, Francesco. It was initially purple in Sector 1, lost a couple of tenths in Sector 2, but that was before that uncomfortable moment through the Ascari. There's Christian Benini. Still with pace to find. Well, still has pace that he can find, I should say, in the Porsche. Does that time do anything for Francesco Adamu? No, he remains in 3rd at the moment. Benini starting another lap in the white and red Porsche. Here comes Fazekas in the lead of the 2 Peugeots. Starting another lap, 1:33.707 his target time that Lucas Kreuzer has set. So Lucas would love to be starting that Toyota on the front row. Currently sits in 6th in the championship. I didn't have a good run in Sebring. Finished in 10th position, unfortunately, last time after 6th, 5th, and 5th in the championship leading up to that point for Kreuzer. So he'll definitely be wanting to work as hard as he can to secure that pole spot. Only 2.5 minutes remain of this qualifying session. Through the Lesmos comes Barnabas Fazekas. There is Benini. And again, perfectly matched to the thousands, his Sector 1 time, or the top Sector 1 time, I should say. 1,000th down is Kreuzer, our current pole man. I mean, you want to talk about consistency? There you go. Nicely done in the Toyota. So interesting, Lucas Kreuzer not resting on his laurels. He's not just gone, yeah, pole, job done, and wisely so, because that gap between himself and Christian Benini is, I think, only 19 thousandths of a second. Marvin Butson in the number 50 Ferrari, or one of them. Currently a second down. Fazekas is back in the pits, so he may well... No, unless he gets on with it. Oh, that was a slide there for Butson coming through Parabolica. So that may well have killed his momentum. Still an improvement, though, of 34.688 for him. And... now, one of the things that has been changed in the recent patches is the off-track monitoring, and it's much more stringent than it was. So this could well be cutting a number of drivers out, as we currently watch the Porsche of Christian Benini, 0.5 tenth to the good at the moment through Sector 1. Almost flirts with the grass coming through Lesmo 1. And... oh, we've got a yellow somewhere. Has someone decided to park there? There we go. Demelian, the second Peugeot, parked his car in the dust. That has cost... well, whether that incident cost Christian Benini 3 tenths of a second is uncertain. Oh, that always looks so painful. I know it's sim racing. I'm well aware that he's not actually feeling that through his spine, but, you know, immersion here, people. That would hurt. You hit a sausage curb that hard in a car like this. Through Parabolica, still giving it plenty of right foot is Christy Benini. Is he coming into the pits? Yes, he is. That is his job done. He will do no more in this qualifying session, along with Francesco Adamu and Adam Sapler in a rogue Porsche. We thought we'd parked it, but he's decided to bring out his car. Adam Sapler is actually in a Ferrari. That is going to upset a lot of the Tifosi. A Ferrari in Porsche colours. I will have nothing to do with that. The Tifosi can deal with that one all on their own on the outside of the circuit. He should be the yellow Ferrari, but certainly on the screen I'm looking at, he is in a blue Porsche. Never mind. Jimmy Menard. So, green Sector 1. Now 1:33.890 puts him 10th and a bit behind. That puts Jimmy Menard into third. The checker flag is out, so anyone on their laps can now finish with Marvin Butson. Just 600ths down in the first sector. He's just shy of a second off ultimate pace, so this could really help give him a few positions. He's able to continue it. We'll see. There he is. Just coming through second Lesmo. There's a yellow out there somewhere. And that could be cars coming to a halt after their final lap being completed. What does Marvin Butson get on the board after the second sector line? Oh, lost a lot of time through the Del Rogia and also the Lesmos. So this may not be an improvement for Marvin. We'll still see. So, last driver on track then, so we will follow Marvin Butson to the line or to his pit box. We'll see what he chooses to do. Ooh, flirting with the grass, coming into the braking zone for Parabolica, using all the pixels of the road. And into the pit box he comes. Yeah, called it. It's how many times? How many times? But I mean, again, with being that far down in sector 2, you were never going to make that up. So, yeah, fair enough. So then, the Hypercar contingent. So they will be, as you would imagine, starting ahead of the GT3s on track. So it is Kreuzer from Bernini on the front row, 2 non-Ferraris in Tifosi territory on the front row by less than 200ths of a second.
Teams and drivers go to the grid for a race
But
start.
let's look at the proper starting order. There we go. Lucas Kreuzer and Christian Bernini, Toyota and Porsche have the front rows. Row 2 is Jimmy Menard and Francesco Adamo. Our lead Ferraris have row 2 to themselves. Row 3 is Adam Sapler in his Ferrari alongside Barnabas Fizikis, the lead Peugeot. And our final row of hypercars is Marvin Butson and Olivier de Melier. In our GT3 contingent, William Giovannini, championship leader, alongside Zach Doran, who sits in 4th in the championship, have the front row. Then Adrian Kabaki, alongside Julian Weissenberger on row 2. Row 3 is Marco Galetti and Liam Rance, our Aston Martins. Row 4 is Juha Makiopi and Nico Barkley. A pair of angry American Mustangs on row 4. Row 5 is Robin Duperon in the Chevrolet, and Gustav Schubert and Jerome Mitral have the tail end of the field in the Porsche and Corvette, respectively. Okay. So how is this going to transpire? Well, only one way to find out. As once all the drivers have readied up, we will then get the rolling, or part rolling lap. It's not a full rolling lap. See the counter in the top left-hand corner. 30 more seconds until we get this race underway. This is a sprint race, so 1 hour on the clock. Then we will see what fun and frolics and mayhem await us. 10 more seconds.
It should be exciting, Chris. Sorry, this one's
Hello, Ed.
here. Yeah, but
welcome
yeah.
back, sir.
Interesting to see Kreuzer get that first pole in the Toyota,
Formation
because a
lap
lot of people
has
after the
started.
update were speculating in Hypercar that Toyota, not the Ferrari, might be the new car of choice in that category. But Bernani also getting that Porsche onto the front row. We did see a couple of good performances. I think it was by Martin Mergeli in the Porsche 963 as well, earlier pre-update as well. So yeah, for Menard, Adamu, and Saplar, it could just be trying to limit the damage potentially down these straights. That Toyota might be able to break away from them. But yeah, Bernani, the real wild card here, might be able to throw a few banana peels at the opposition here.
It had to happen, didn't it?
Want to get it out of the way now.
Yeah, may as well. It won't be the last time that one comes up either. All right, through Parabolica comes our 2 grids. So the hypercars will, well, everybody will know the throttle, but of course the hypercars starting ahead of the GT3s as per standard multi-class arrangements. Everybody is nervous, and we are racing here in Monza. So then, who has got the jump. Well, we see Menard then trying to split the waves between the Porsche and the Toyota ahead. Because it is always difficult to know where to look. It looks like our GD3s are getting very, very close. 3 wide as they're coming down into the rest of video. Who is going to come? Zach Doran nearly getting swapped round by Adrian Kabaki. Looks like everybody has survived the first few turns. Which is always a good thing. You're absolutely honing it towards the first chicane. Green flag waving by our flagmen. It looks like everybody has survived so far. So good.
Yeah, that first chicane looked like an absolute nightmare in GD3 because Duran was trying to go around the outside of Giovanini. Luckily surviving, but look at this, Liam Rance making the move on Galetti, pushes Galetti off almost, and now here comes Yukimaki Yupi trying to make 2 moves in 1 up the inside into Lesmo 1, and there we go, the winner in Sebring. Oh, dips a few wheels in the gravel, needed a bit more extra track to pull that one move up, and Galetti back up the inside. Oh, was him and Rance muscle each other. That was actually a Galetti being pushed out of the way by Rance. Sorry, it's very easy to mix them up given that those cars are absolutely identical in almost every respect. Those custom deliveries can't come soon enough, and now Kuschik is getting involved along with Nico Barclay as well, split the 2 of them.
Yeah, that got very, very dicey for the Aston Martins. Neither one of them wanted to give any space whatsoever, and that has cost certainly Liam Rance a position. There is Gustav Schubert, and we look further up the field, Marcin Kasperczyk in one of the few McLarens in the field, in the slipstream of the Aston, who in turn is in the slipstream of Nico Barclay. Thinks about an inside manoeuvre, gets a bit uncomfortable in the braking zone of the Parabolica, but no impact between the Aston and the Mustang at the moment. Nico Barclay holds that inside line, but he's now got all the slipstream right behind him. How is he going to defend this one? Well, I mean, at this early stage of the race, you could argue you may as well just let the overtake happen and figure it out. The straight is so long, but it does look like that, beg your pardon, that's Galetti that now makes the move. Well defended by Nico Barclay, and Kasperczyk tries to get the move and nearly spins the Aston, who then gets turned into Gustav. Oh no, that is Jerome Mitral, who is the victim of that one. That's a shame. He was minding his own business and got a punch in the face by the Aston.
I think Jerome Mitchell just spun on his own trying to avoid it there. Jerome just sort of panicked and saw the bit of the incident in front of Robin Duporion now fighting away with Galetti, and Duporion still holding it around the outside. That is impressive. There we go. Galetti's not going to find it all that easy to sweep back through in that Aston there. So Liam Rance, by getting ahead, avoiding all the drama, is up in 6th position behind Maki Yupi. Maki Yupi, of course, gained 2 positions on the both of them. But yeah, poor Galetti finds himself very much the victim of the Corvette and the McLaren of Kuschik there as well, getting involved there. But now, this is Jimmy Menard we're on board with, of course, up there, leading that championship, and he's got Banani, Cruiser, not direct competitors in the title race, of course, because Cruiser is down in 5th, Banani in 7th, 4 points between those two, but they are a long way down on Menard at the top of the table. So Jimmy Menard can afford to be patient here, but Banani, he really wants to get in the conversation for this race win and put the pressure on Cruiser. Remember, Cruiser was running in the top 4, top 3, wasn't he, near the end of Sebring, and then when the conditions became a little bit tricky later in the race, he actually messed up right at the end and had a big crash. So that will be weighing ever so slightly on his mind here, as we now see Galetti up the inside out of the Alboreto Parabolica on Robin Duporion, and Duporion slots him behind in that Corvette. Can the grunt of that American muscle get him alongside the Aston Martin again, as we see Liam Rance passing Maki Yupi late on the brakes over the curb, and the Englishman is up into the top 5, exactly where he was in Fuji before everything went to absolute pot for him. 55 minutes left to go, and Rance making progress.
I think that was a brilliant move that Juha Mäki-Jopi pulled off earlier on to nail both of the Aston Martins whilst they were arguing over their own bit of real estate. And now it's having a look on the inside line again as they come into the Dalrosia chicane. He's got the Mustang along and up alongside, bounces over the curb, and that is back into 5th position for the Finn. Very nicely done. Now, can he close in on Adam Sapler Weissenberger? I'm sure he'd love to catch up with Adam Sapler. That's a hypercar. Something there would definitely be questions asked about this balance of power if Maki Yupi could catch Adam Sapler. That's another.
He's a really good driver, Maki Yupi. He's not quite that good.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, Weissenberger, so he's got a couple of seconds to close in there. Oh, that's getting a bit uncomfortable for Jimmy Menard. So, Christian Bernani, gets a bit of a boot up the backside there from the number 50 Ferrari. So, Jimmy Menard then trying to kind of hurry Christian Bernani on. Probably wasn't expecting the Porsche to get out of shape. And that's given Kreuzer a good second and a tiny bit of breathing space, which can disappear in the blink of an eye. But Christian Bernani would really much like to have that breathing space. At the moment, does not belong to him. Riding on board with our Hypercar Championship leader, as they hug their way through. Oh, nearly flirts with the outside of Lesmo 1. Keeps the car nice and steady. Now, this is going to be an interesting thing. If the Toyota and the Porsche are hinted to be a little bit more favourite here in Monza, how hard does Jimmy Menard push? Especially, exactly as you were saying earlier, Ed, they're not direct competitors. You never want to give points away, but you do have to be sensible. If they're not in the championship race alongside you, as Jimmy Menard goes way too deep off the exit of the Ascari, and look how much time that's cost him. That's a good couple of car lengths that has cost him, and if he has got a bit of a disadvantage against the Porsche, that's going to be so difficult to close down.
Yeah, problem is that as we see, Rance has got back ahead of Maki Yupi, and this time makes it stick into the second Della Roggia chicane there, crucially for him. So then Rance will now try and chase down Weissenberger himself, as there we go, Galetti continuing to try and recover positions. It's Schubert in the Porsche immediately ahead of him. Duporion was actually having a pretty impressive second ever race in the gold split, I should say, not the silver split. But he's on the reserve list, unless I'm very much mistaken. Dupurion, I'll at least very recently promoted off the reserve list to make up the numbers. But he's very much doing a bit more than that, challenging for the top 10 here against Galetti, who was very solidly in it at the start of this race. But yeah, I think going back to Bernani versus Menard, you can tell Christian is locking up a lot into the braking zones. He might not be used to running this high up, and the BOP has sort of helped the Porsche a little bit over one lap in qualifying, but Christian has still got to do the work defending from a driver of the caliber of Jimmy Menard, who of course is leading the championship for very, very good reason, because he is consistently on the podium at pretty much every race so far this season that he's shown up for. And now all of this between Bonani and Menard is allowing Lucas Kreuzer to just stretch his legs in that Toyota to the tune of nearly 1.5 seconds now. So yeah, Bonani will be getting a little bit of slipstream at the exit of some of these corners. But as you saw, Menard, when he was getting very, very close out of Ascari, he was almost understeering off in a little bit of dirty air. It's not as pronounced as you might see in Formula 1, but it can still be there in some of these high-speed chicanes then. And Bernani, of course, has just got to really survive in this first stint, see if he can stay in the mix, because I think Menard just looks that a little bit stronger, a little bit more confident on the brakes. Look at Francisco Adama as well, who is slowly reeling both of them in too.
Yeah, very true. And then, as you can see there, almost all of the Hypercar class in that one camera shot, with Adam Sapler shortly behind in 5th position. So now everybody is kind of settled into their rhythms. Nearly, 8.5 minutes of the race done. So people have, for now at least, settled into their pecking order. Francesco Adamo is it was certainly within slipstream range of Jimmy Menard. There is our GT3 field. So being led again by Giovannini. Again, no disrespect meant. It's William Giovannini with 3 podiums out of 4 races so far. Missing out only by 1 spot in Imola, coming home in 4th. So consistency proving very, very king for the BMW. But he has not run off into the distance, though. He's got Zach Doran. He's got Adrian Kabacki right behind him. He's got Julian Weissenberger in eyesight of that lead group, and Juha Mäki-Jopi also in his yellow Mustang. So it's whilst you do settle into your rhythm, even on a shorter endurance race such as this, you cannot take your eye off the ball. You still have got to stay focused. And yeah, we'll see who rises to the top here in Monza.
Indeed, but still a long way to go. There will be a bit of pit strategy here. So those that can run a bit longer. Whoa, and that is Schubert that has dropped it on the exit of the Parabolica. And it looks like, oh, is that Jerome Mitral or is that Duporion that's in trouble here? It is Robin Duporion, because of the black front of that hood there on the Corvette. So that is a shame. I think him and Schubert must have come together there. So A little bit of that inexperience showing, I'm afraid. And Schubert, well, it didn't seem that promising qualifying the Porsche. There are a lot of people who were hoping the update would save the Porsche 911 in the GT3 class and make it a bit more of a competitive prospect. And they might be looking at that and feeling a little bit of dread that they might have to still deal with rear instability, but it's the other Corvette of Mitral that has completely got the first chicane wrong yet again, and Mitral is having a bit of a horrible start to this race, really. We also see a couple of comments in the chat. Paulino Ortu says, we want to see Banani, guys. So, yeah, Banani is actually starting to close in on Cruiser by a couple of attempts there. He's kept the gap below 1 second. He's actually started to drop Menard ever so slightly as he is really aggressively trying to lap the Aston Martin there of that must be Galetti.
Indeed. So now the hypercars are catching the tail end of the GT3 field. This, even on a track such as Monza, that is a lot of right foot, can still generate some interesting moments. That's one of the McLarens that hypercar leaders are coming past.
Koscheck.
Kasperczyk, okay. There's Nico Barkley, indeed. Well spotted, sir. Into Parabolica once again. Nico Barkley doing... Oh, wow, you look at the line Kreuzer had to take there. Now, that has definitely cost him. Look at the gap now between Banani and Kreuzer. That is coming down. Now, is it going to be enough for a change of position? Unlikely. But, exactly as I was just saying, you know, Parabolica, a long flowing right-hander, and something put Kreuzer off. So that lead, absolutely gone.
Yeah, he had to go around the outside of Liam Rance, I believe it was, who's lost out to Maki Yuppie again. Great fight for fifth going on in GT3 while this is going on. But of course, Cruiser, he sort of had to go for that because if he was stuck behind Liam Rance, and then Banani would be even more all over the back of him, possibly ahead going into that first chicane, which he could not allow then. So Cruiser has, because he's the first to encounter the traffic, he's got the least time to decide what he wants to do. Whereas Banani has got that little bit of extra time to react, but now we see, that must have been Weisenberger all over the apex and in the way. No, it's Zach Duran, sorry. We are at the very, very front as Duran has stayed within about 1.2 seconds of Giovannini, and in fact, Kabaki isn't far behind either, so it's still very, very close at the front of GD3, and now Zappler is also starting to close on Adamu, who's had real problems keeping up with Menard as the cars are not falling his way in the GT3 traffic. You can see one of the Peugeots closing in a little bit as well on Zappler in turn. So there will be a bit of an accordion effect before it all settles down.
Fasikas really had to jump out of the way of the BMW there to avoid a big old impact there. The traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. Now Kreuzer with almost a second's gap between himself and Banani. We have got a yellow flag. Oh, goodness me. That again got a bit uncomfortable for Fasikas. Oh, no, that's Galetti. The Aston Martin off into the dust. And you want to say someone that's really struggling, and that Aston is not doing Galetti any favours.
Yeah, he must have dropped it pushing too hard at the exit of Ascari there. Very easy to do in the dry, but especially in the wet too, as we saw in actually both the Platinum Split and the Contender Split last season as well here at Monza. So it's deceptively always looks like the simplest circuit on the calendar, doesn't it, Monza? But when you have suddenly got a grid full of 17 other cars to worry about, suddenly it becomes a bit of a less straightforward proposition. We actually see Cruiser, now they've broken free of the GT3 traffic, at least for the time being, as there's more yellows shown out there. Banani has been able to close a bit in the first sector. Has Lucas Cruiser maybe pushed the tires a little bit too far in these first 15 minutes or so, because he's just looking that little bit more vulnerable here. The Porsche starting to come into its own. Banani locking up a lot less and really looking like a challenger for victory at the present moment, of course. But we'll have to see strategically. Menard might have something up his sleeve that he might withdraw out of his sleeve and then out of his pocket as well once the pit stop phases begin, and we see everybody having to decide what strategy they're on, of course. But we also don't know what tires they've all picked. We believe the front runners either on hards or mediums at the moment, and there we go, confirmation, medium yellow circles. So there's mediums all across the board in the top 5 in both classes.
Well, again, the lead ebbing and flowing between Kreuzer and Banani. The Toyota and Porsche once again set to duel. Heavy on the brakes once again into the rest video. Menard still looming in the background. May well just, as we said before, may have just opt to stay there, at least for now. 45 minutes of the race to go. Plenty of time to let the strategies play out. As we see Nico Barkley in the slipstream of the Aston Martin of Liam Rance. Liam seems to be much more comfortable with that Aston than Galetti has been thus far. We will see. Also, bear in mind that with that incident that Liam Rance had in qualifying, we don't know whether that is going to earn the eye of the stewards, as he returned to the pits and then set another quali lap. So, whilst at the moment he may well be in sixth, we'll have to unfortunately wait until post-race stewarding concludes before
It's
that
one of
is
those
confirmed.
things, though, isn't it, Chris? Because if you think about it, we've seen it a couple of times where drivers have either always was struggling on the brakes into that second chicane there, the second road of video. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you crash out and he hadn't set a lap, so he would have started to start at the very, very back of the field had he followed the rules. But this way, he qualifies in the top 6. He's in 6th at the moment, and potential for a good chance if Maki Yupi hits trouble, he could get into the top 5 himself. He can sort of tank the back of the grid penalty in the next race, and you know, don't have to worry about it then. So from the point of view of a racing driver that maybe you don't have the rule book in front of you, it's been a while, you're sort of in a way better off disregarding the rules, getting back out there and doing another lap time, because at least that's better for your confidence. As actually Liam Rance does not get a great exit there. He just seemed a little bit slow on the power, maybe worried about corner cutting or something. But now Nico Barkley is right on the back of him, just a tenth between them then as they go into the Parabolica again. And what is Liam Rance going to do here? Because that Aston Martin does not look good at the rear tyres, and the acceleration compared to the Mustang looking a little bit second-hand. So he's going to lose position to another Mustang. Nico Barkley very, very gratefully gets alongside, and this should be a very, very straightforward move then for Barkley, as long as Liam Rance doesn't outbrake him into that first chicane.
Oh, well, they answered that one. Nico Barkley slams the door on the Aston Martin. Another yellow flag. Who is it that's had an issue? We can see on the tower, Duporion and Schubert both retiring their cars following their incident. As there is Marcin Kasperczyk. Oh, and it is Mitchell again. He's really, really not got to terms with the Corvette. And it's a great shame for him as the lead Hypercar's coming past once more. Oh dear, great shame for Jerome Mitchell.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was the case before the update as well. Jerome was, by his own admission, sort of struggling and not having a great deal of fun out there to keep the car in a straight line. But yeah, he's one of those drivers, Jerome Mitchell, that you can't help but sort of cheer for him a little bit. And he's still in the race, still in the top 10. Admittedly, only 10 GT3 still running, but nonetheless, he's made it further than Duporion or Schubert. So absolutely worth keeping going if he can just stay out of trouble. The only problem is he just needs to make sure he doesn't hold up any of the hypercars or any of the other GT3s, come to think of it. We've still got 42 minutes left to go of this one. And before too long, we might see a couple of the early pitters making their move here. So I did tell Laia, I said 1 hour, 40 minutes. I think it's only a 1 hour race from what we're seeing so far, as we see actually Menard dipping the wheels into the gravel and losing even more time. You see Banani has got the advantage on virtual energy here, so that tells me he's either going to run a bit longer or he's waiting for the right moment to use that to try and pass Cruiser. So Cruiser under attack, and Christian Banani is just really on a charge at the moment. These two, you wouldn't think they're fighting for 6th in the championship, would you? You think they'd be the Italian versus the German fighting for the overall championship at the moment, the way they're driving, and you never know if they can keep this pace up at other tracks left on the calendar, and this could end up being a really, really crucial round for the championship. But yeah, Christian Banani, it's his home race. He wants to win it, and Cruiser has got to make sure he doesn't crack under this pressure.
Now, you made the point earlier, Ed, that Kreuzer may well have burnt the best out of his tyres a little bit quicker than Christian Banani, and the fact that Kreuzer had a couple of % less in the virtual energy tank than Banani. Now, on the surface of it, that may be fairly inconsequential, but that kind of tells me that Kreuzer is feeling the pressure. He's feeling the need to use a little bit more of that energy to defend against Banani, as we've now got Marco Galetti in the Aston serving the first pit stop. So about third distance through the race, and our first assumedly scheduled. Again, we don't know what pit strategy our drivers run in any of our classes. We call it as we see it. So the first Aston in. We'll see who else follows suit.
Might be repairs for Galetti as well, given his hit with the barrier not too long ago. So that Aston Martin probably not a whole lot of fun to drive, even discounting the fact that it's no longer maybe the second. Previously, before the update, it seemed to be the second fastest car, didn't it? With behind the Mustang at a lot of venues, with maybe the BMW sort of an equal. We've got two very good BMW drivers in Giovannini and Kabaki, of course, which somewhat skews the sample. They're too good in a way. Whereas, yeah, but I certainly think there's something to that. And you saw how much Liam Rance was struggling there. And Liam Rance, we know from R Factor 2 and several other championships, is a very, very decent driver. So the fact that he can't quite keep up with Nico Barclay, again, very good driver, but you would think the Mustang wouldn't be able to just pull away from him down the straights. And you can even see there's the McLaren starting to just keep both of them in touch here as well, of Maciej Kuszczyk, who's actually done really well to stay out of trouble from much further down the pack, get up to 8th, and now he is giving Liam Rance a little bit of pressure, but the big pressure really is both Maki Yupi's caught up to Weisenberger, and he's now 8 tenths behind him, but also Bernani continuing to harass Lucas Cruiser here. And you've got to wonder, is Cruiser maybe there's the temptation to wait until half distance and go for that stop? Is this going to be a situation where maybe some of the hypercars are going to try and save fuel like Menard and Adama and Zapla, who are a bit further down, or the way they're using virtual energy, that tells me that all of them are thinking about making the pit stop really to refuel on it.
It certainly did look like, from what we could tell, that everybody had the same, or broadly the same, idea on pit stop strategy. As we now look at the aforementioned closing gap between Julian Weissenberger and Juha Mäki-Joppi, not the first time that these two have crossed swords. One of these two at Fuji that had that absolutely enthralling Mustang battle, I think it was, Mäki-Joppi finished 5th on that occasion. Where did Weissenberger finish? He was 3rd. So that has been, well, that's certainly been Weissenberger's best result of the season so far. As you mentioned earlier, Ed, Mäki-Joppi winning last time out in Sebring for the GT3 class. But yeah, these two know how to race each other fast and close and clean and fair. So it is not a surprise to see you have Mäki-Joppi hustling Julian Weissenberger as the black Mustang doesn't even try and defend that. You know when the move is done. No point slowing you both down. That is the Finn up to 4th.
Wise by Weissenberger there. Sorry, messed
Wise
that
by
one up.
Weissenberger, that'll do.
Yeah, a Weisenberger, yes. But yeah, Julian, as you say, no point wasting time, especially as we're sort of getting those who are going to try and half this race in their pit strategy. We're getting into the pit window, aren't we? So that to me tells me that Weisenberger, as we see now, the hypercar leaders closing in, and this is not good news for Cruiser because it's two cars battling for position very close together. He's able to get one of them into Lesmo 1. Bernani has to wait his turn. By the time he gets through, Mäki-Joppi has been dispensed with by Cruiser as well. So as we say, the traffic ebbing and flowing in this particular battle, and it's all a matter of Bernani just keeping that pace up as best he can. Cruiser has actually responded pretty well. Both of them just pulling away from Menard. Now they're 4 seconds ahead. You've got to think that unless they are using a lot of fuel and tires, they're looking good.
That was bad for Cruiser. Yeah, he caught the BMW at just the wrong point. Bernani W, anything said there. And that's just completely ruined his momentum as the Porsche and the Toyota side by side. Christian Bernani not waiting anymore. He's in the tyre trucks of the second BMW. They bracket him with the black Toyota going to the wider line, and that is a race lead to the German. So to the Italian, beg your pardon. So Cruiser, he's not happy with that. Immediately gets into the slipstream, probably dumps the battery. Does not commit to the move though. Coming down into the Rettifilio. Oh, that was, no one did anything wrong there. It was just so unlucky for Lucas Cruiser, just catching the BMW right the way through Ascari. And again, as a reminder, the slower car is not encouraged to jump out of the way. Indeed, they are very much discouraged from jumping out of the way. They must remain predictable. They must stick to their line, because the faster car will have the speed and the downforce, as we've proven many times, to make the move. So if they try and jump out of the way, they run the risk of causing a major accident as they jump into the line that the faster car is committing to. So Christian Bernani very much enjoyed that and takes the lead.
Yeah, but it so easily could have gone the other way, actually, because Bernani very, very wisely went all the way to the left, was able to sort of predict exactly what would happen, and in this instance was absolutely correct, whereas Cruiser had less time to react and was caught out. But now, if they hit more GT3 traffic, the shoe is on the other foot, and it's Bernani leading the way, and Cruiser with just that little bit of extra time. It's when you're hunting someone down, you're always looking for the gaps a bit more, whereas when you're in the lead, you tend to hunch over, look in your virtual wing mirrors a little bit more, and it does change the way you drive now. So this will be the test for Bernani, not used to leading in the gold split. There's a big opportunity here, and both of them, of course, Bernani and Cruiser, being cheered on by Frank van Ginneken Racing. This is Lucas and Christian, Hyper P1 and P2. Well done, boys. Keep it on. And certainly for Jimmy Menard, he is starting to hope that these two crash into each other and give him a chance, because he is being dropped at the moment, which is not what our championship leader is used to seeing. So all our 499p Ferrari car runners in both this championship and in the Platinum Split will be looking at this in terror, really. And if you are like, say, I don't think anybody uses the Porsche 963 in Platinum Split, but there are a couple like James Baldwin and Jack McConnell that do use the Toyota. They will be looking at this feeling, oh, there might be some hope for me to win this thing overall after all. Especially Jack McConnell, who's not had a great deal of luck in Platinum Split so far.
No, indeed, as we look at our two lead Ferraris, Jimmy Menard still ahead, and flirting with the dust again on the exit of the first Esmo. Francesco Adamo, who's been keeping him company all race long, with Adam Sapler and I think it's Barnabas Fazekas in 6th position of the lead Peugeot, but all eyes at the moment glued on the Toyota and the Porsche, arguing for the race lead. Bernani is trying to break away from Kreuzer. Kreuzer trying to regain the lead he's had all race long. The qualifying times were so close between these two, only 0.03 of a second. Indeed, it was only another 34 thousandths back to the next car. So the top three were very, very close, but the race has been very much dominated by the Porsche and Toyota thus far. I love the fact that we had a flash of the lights there from the Corvettes.
Neutral.
So to me, flashing means I am going to pass you. I think that's a little bit optimistic, but either way, nice to see. But now,
I think Jerome just likes the company, because he's had a couple of spins. He's not really had much to shout about in this race so far.
Can't blame him there.
As now we see Brandt.
Now what does
rear lights apparently is what?
I bet I got you.
Broadcast director's telling us. So yes, so it was obviously telling the hypercars that leaders that he'd seen them as they still circulate half a second apart. But now Liam Rance, it seems Nico Barkley started to struggle, because Rance has started to catch him back up again. So yeah, Liam Rance maybe was just keeping a bit in reserve for later in the stint. But you've got to think, if you're a GT3 and you want to get a little bit of an undercut here, now is about the time you might want to make your stop, unless they're trying to just run as long as they can so they spend the least amount of time possible in the pits.
Now, what does Kreuzer do? Yeah, what does Kreuzer do here? Now, from what we were kind of gathering, he pushed a bit more. Oh, well, that's completely different from the picture we saw earlier on. It was Bernani with a couple of percent in hand.
Well, he used it to take that lead when that opportunity opened up, and he kind of had to, didn't he?
Yeah, you can't blame him there whatsoever. So it's a negligible difference between our remaining hypercar runners. So again, we are fast approaching the halfway stage. So I wouldn't be surprised if the pit lane gets very, very busy very soon.
Yeah, but like I said, that especially in hypercars, but maybe GT3s as well, there might be a couple of drivers that are just trying to hang it out and try and do that overcut strategy. Rance has now cleared Barclay through, I think, the two Lesmos, and now into Ascari. It's the Aston Martin that is back into the top 6 then. So yeah, Liam Rance, of course, a bit of a gap to Weisenberger and Makiyupi ahead. But yeah, Makiyupi has still got quite a distance to cover. It's Kabaki still keeping Zach Duran. Duran has actually done very, very well. What looks to be a BMW track. It is definitely Duran that's outperforming that Mustang in terms of relative performance there, as Rance gets a little bit loose on the exit of the Alberto Parabolica, and now Nico Barkley's got another chance to fight back here as we're about to meet half distance.
So Nico Barkley, as you say, now is he going to make the move? We ain't going to do it there. Saw the McLarens do that at Canada, and we know how that ended up, but no, Barkley just staying there, just keeping the pressure on the Aston. Doesn't try to banzai the inside of the Rettifidio. Remains currently in 7th position. We'll see. I wonder whether he's kind of conceding that the Aston is a little bit quicker than him. But we will see as the race continues. Now, I wondered if the pit lane was going to get very, very busy. And you were surmising, Ed, that people are going to leave it as long as possible. Certainly no one is looking to keep the pit crews company just yet. So my pit strategy calls have traditionally been very, very wrong. Stop laughing, production. I know you've thought that one funny. Yeah, I will happily be proven wrong on that one. But yeah, another thing to bear in mind is so much has changed in kind of BOP and tyre mechanics and what have you. How much have these drivers really gotten to grips, pun intended, with how the cars are now behaving? This could also be, someone could try and take the gamble of either the earlier stop. We saw Nico Barkley really kind of weaving around behind the Aston, so his tyres could well be absolutely cooked, but it doesn't look like everyone's following your advice, Ed, stringing it out as long as possible.
Yeah, and especially if you think the undercut isn't going to be particularly powerful around here. Usually we see races at Monza, you just want to sort of run as long as you can and stay at the pit lane as much as possible. So it doesn't surprise me here. I think a couple of the GD3s might be the first to come in with maybe 10 minutes to go. And then we're going to see maybe a couple of hypercars risk it. And someone like Menard might be trying to save fuel to get to, well, not with that amount of virtual energy, actually. As you can see, in fact, actually, Banani is still looking the best on virtual energy, so he's been doing an absolutely stellar job. You can tell there's that temptation for Cruiser to use a bit to try and retake the track position, but he's been actually fairly sensible on that front as well. It's only a percentage down, so this is going to be really, really fascinating to see how this all plays out in this final half hour, because the GT3s have all certainly got to pit. The hypercars, this is a very difficult circuit to save fuel on because you're on throttle for quite a lot of the lap, aren't you? So if you sort of lift and coast, chances are you're just going to lose positions.
That's the problem, isn't it? And also coming back to what you were saying, yeah, Kreuzer is now in a really awkward position here. Banani, looking at it currently, does look like he's got a tiny bit pace advantage over the Toyotas. So what does Kreuzer do? He knows he's got the pace to be front running. Obviously, he's still in a podium position. But does he push? Does he try to regain that position? Or does he play out the strategy? Does he hope that the traffic will push Banani back into him as the traffic kind of unsettled him a few laps ago? And again, watching it on board with Nico Barkley, the tail is so unhappy in that Mustang. Mind you, saying that, yeah, Liam Rance had a terrible exit from Ascari, but Barkley, again, is not making the move. He's staying where he is. Does this kind of say, and this is what it says to me, that Barkley's kind of saying, I could make the pass, but you're only going to come past me again anyway. There's no kind of reason I can think of as the Mustang now pushing the Aston Martin along. So they are essentially working together, but I'd be very, very nervous doing that.
That's one way of overcoming the BOP. Balance of push.
Yeah. As you just watch Liam Rance detonate over the wall as he's pushed too far past the breaking point. Oh no, sorry, mate.
Yeah,
not that I'm a cynic, anyway.
Yeah, I think Nico Barkley very, very experienced, so he's just letting Liam know that he's there. We see our two leaders again about to lap front runners here in GD3. Also quite close. Gabaki is within about 6/10 of Duran, so that'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. There's Banani. Does Cruiser get through as well? No, Cruiser has to wait his turn, and so he will be just appearing up the inside there. And again, it's the same old story when you see two GT3s fighting each other. one has to wait for the other. And you see Cruiser, he's thinking there's always that temptation to pit earlier as well, but knowing that the undercut is not quite so powerful here at Monza, they're all trying to just string it out for as long as they can, or stay out of the pits altogether if they can avoid it.
Oh,
Oh dear, Weissenberger, lucky escape there as Cruiser loses a couple attempts in all of that. So Cruiser again gets unlucky out of Ascari, and it's those two moments that are seen him from leading the race to being just over a second behind now.
and that's given Jimmy Menard a bit of a hurry up. That's a second, pretty much, he's gained to the gap to the top two. It's now 3.5 between the Ferrari, who's really using every pixel of space available to get the outside line on Liam Rance. That could have gone horribly wrong for Jimmy Menard, but he's had his bravery pills here in Monza today. So through he goes. Oh no! That got a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, Weissenberger trying to return to the racing line at very, very short notice there, and Adamu very nearly experienced a bit of a plane crash there, but luckily both drivers realized what was happening in time, and Adamu, who's fallen about 3 seconds behind Menard now, has finally got a little bit of clear road ahead of him, at least for the time being. But yeah, you do sense that Adamu is being played out of that podium fight now, as we cut back to Giovannini, who has been very, very consistently pulling away from Zach Durand the longer this stint goes on. So yeah, Giovannini can now sort of dictate strategies. You can see Adrian Kabaki, who, if our memory serves, he was very, very strong actually at Sebring last time out, wasn't Kabaki? Because
Kabaki was second.
He was second, yes. He did get beat Zach Durand and a couple others in the sort of closing stages there, and was able to hold on to that P2. I think it was ahead of Giovannini, actually. So, yes, Kabaki is on a bit of a hot streak at the moment in terms of podiums, and he wants another second position here. And Durand, who has been extremely quick, one of the quickest drivers in the GT3 field, but he's sort of let Sebring sort of stands out as a position where he sort of let a better result slip through his fingers by not switching tyres for that final stint, didn't he? So he has been known to take those sort of risks, and they don't always pay out, as there's Fazekas trying to keep Adam Zappler very, very honest in the battle for fifth in Hypercar. But yeah, Kabaki has got to pick his moment here, and if he can keep the pressure on Durand, then he might be able to get another second position to his name, and that would do his championship an entire world of good, because of course he didn't have a great first two rounds, but he's continuing to grow and grow in his confidence as the BMW becomes a much more competitive proposition as this season goes on.
Very true. And Banani has now built up 2.3 seconds or more over Kreuzer. So the Hypercar lead now very much swinging in the Porsche's advantage as we look at Olivier Demelian in the second of the Peugeots. Somewhat on his own, but still rotating out there. And he finishes points. So it's always worth seeing it through to the checker flag as we are fast approaching 2/3 through this race. Couple more minutes and then 20 to go. Marvin Butson is just working his way through and past some of the GT3s. He is trying to chase down Barnabas Fazekas. He's got 8 seconds to close in though. So still pressing on in there. Well, as you can see, the virtual energy storage, it's getting a bit more, a tiny bit more spread out. Menard at a disadvantage there on 8%. So is going to be in the next few laps when the hypercars decide that they've got to bring it in. We have seen people run the tank to very, very, very near empty before.
Oh, Mitro's done it again.
Well, he's finding another gravel trap to write his name in, unfortunately. That Corvette is not doing him any favours.
No, not whatsoever. But yeah, certainly Mitro's just in a position where he's just got to keep going. That's all he can really do at this point. And you can tell for Jimmy Menard, as the percentage runs down, he might end up having to be the first to pit. He's going to have to pit, you would think, maybe if he's very conservative in about 3 laps time here, but you really don't want to risk it running out, because that could be a 100-second penalty coming your way if you do, with the virtual energy that's pretty strict in Le Mans Ultimate, unless they change the rules in the update, which we don't know. I guess we'll find out in the next couple of minutes, but yes, as we see, Nico Barclay, going a bit long into that first chicane, which allows Liam Rance to escape out of his clutches once again. And unfortunately, that's sort of been the story of Nico Barclay's day. He's not able to get on terms with Rance.
But just not giving up, though. Still pressing on. They may well be fighting for a little bit further down the GT3 pecking order, but still fight they do. Here we see Adamu, Sapler, and Fazekas. So these three getting very, very close together. Fourth, fifth, and sixth in the hypercars are getting very, very close now.
I think
Two-thirds of the
Adamu's
race
running
down.
long because he's got more virtual energy than those around him. He had about 11%, while those in front had 7%. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, well spotted. Indeed. So Menard. Yeah, Menard looks like he's going to be the first to... Well, I've said that before and been proven wrong. So we will see. But yeah, Jimmy Menard really is throwing the lottery with his tank. Oh, no, yellow flag. Is that a yellow car? Yes, it is. I mean, no disrespect to Jerome Mitral. I could not do the kind of pace that he's doing in this car or in any. But it's just unfortunate that, yeah, unfortunately, mate, we can see what you're doing. And he's kind of pulling over and getting out of the way of everybody else. But you've got to imagine the frustration. But he's still pushing on. He's still competing. And he's still getting that car to the end. So fair play to him for that.
Yeah, still top 9, isn't he, in the GD3 standings? So there's every chance he could still get a couple of decent points, much needed points as well for Jerome Mitral, who, let's not forget, where is he in the championship? Quite a way down.
11th.
There he is, he's 11th, yeah. So his best result was 7th at Sebring, which again was, I think, last of the GD3s. So he's in that sort of position where he's got no option but to keep going. Even if he's going around like a spinning top, he's still getting experience, he's still learning, and is sort of a position where he's always been very, very open about his struggles, isn't he? In the YouTube chat, he's always the first to say, "Oh, that was horrible. I couldn't get that lap together." Menard on 2%, by the way. He's surely coming in sooner rather than later. But Banani is going to preempt both of them. So 80 minutes to go. Looks like our hypercars are all heading in.
Well, yeah, and there is Menard. Is Adamu next to follow? Yes, he is. Jordi Sapler is going to be next. The yellow flag again. Yep.
Whoa, it's not him.
It's Demelians. That's, yeah, Demelian that has gone off on the second Peugeot. But all bar one. Indeed. I think all bar one of our remaining hypercars are in now. I mean, they've got no choice.
Very marginal for Menard. You can see that red next to his name. That means he's got less than 1% left of virtual energy. But Banani, of course, gets away first. And we're about to see, there we go, released just behind him is the German Lucas Kreuzer.
I'd love that feature if I've powered our park too close to someone. That would be a fantastic feature of my car. But the hypercars are the ones that have the pneumatic jacks. Now, is that going to give Banani a particular advantage? And absolutely not. So they come in perfect sync and come out with near enough the same gap between them.
If anything, Kreuzer closed a bit.
Oh, briefly yellow. So someone's flirting with the dust somewhere. So Fazekas on the back of Sapler, and now our GT3s are all coming in. So the pit lane did get very busy at the same time, just not quite when I thought it would. So yeah, everyone's followed your advice and left it as long as possible to make the pit stop as short as possible. Except now, Yuha Makiyuki did this before, didn't he? He's one for throwing the dice, doing something different with the pit stop strategy. Looks like everybody else has, or possibly Nico Barkley may well have followed his fellow Mustang, but I seem to remember Makiyuki did this before, so we'll see if it pays off for him this time.
Yeah, he could probably only go about 1 or 2 laps longer than the rest of the field, you would assume. Does mean he can put less fuel on. I don't think it's quite going to be enough for him to undercut Giovannini, but let's see if he can get a bit closer, because he was obviously, Makiyuki was trying to close on Kabaki, wasn't he? He was sort of running, he's kind of running in a net 4th, isn't he, overall in GD3, and Barclay's obviously a bit further back, fighting behind Rats. So this would make sense why Nico Barkley wasn't able to chase through. What was that, sorry? Olivier Demodians, that we saw causing that yellow flag, is out of the race then. So thanks for that, Nick.
Another of our hypercars has parked it, so unfortunate. Again, that's it's not been a strong round for the Peugeot of Olivier Demoliens. Only the dedicated few remain, but yeah, again, that gap may well have opened up a little bit between Kreuzer and Banani, but that battle is not done. You know, is Maki Yupi coming in this time? Yes, he is. Let's see if his gamble is going to pay off.
I don't think someone like Yone Simic will be too worried because we've seen the Peugeots really struggle, and Simic has still been able to get it into pole position or get a decent top 5 result at Sebring, which we know did not suit that Peugeot at all. So yeah, there we go. Finally, Maki Yupi and Barclay come in for their fuel, and we're probably going to keep the same set of tyres just to minimize the length of this pit stop here. And so the big question is Liam Rance going to come out ahead or behind Nico Barclay here? Maki Yupi is certainly going to come out back into 4th position, you would think, just behind Kabaki. There we go. There go the leaders through now. There is Zach Duran, there is Adrian Kabaki, and there is Yukamaki Yupi. So Kabaki is only just going to stay ahead of him.
So we have got a scrap on then for the last step of the podium, if nothing else, in our GT3s when Maki Yupi gets back up to speed, as using Weissenbecken getting back into 5th position and back on Juha Maki Yupi's case. So that GT3 battle has not phased much, and Kreuzer is back on the charge. That lead has absolutely disintegrated between the Italian and the German. So what does Lucas Kreuzer have in the Toyota, and what can Christian Banani use to defend?
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, as 40 minutes left to go in the race, probably not the best time to do a sponsory with the two leaders fighting each other because it might be ever so slightly distracting, but we'll see if we can fit one in. But yeah, Christian Banani then continuing to defend, and Lucas Kreuzer, of course, we know was slightly faster over a single lap. Of course, possibly the hypercars might have fit in a tire change here, but you would think now Lucas Kreuzer should, in theory, have the advantage. He has a slightly quicker stop. He might have underfueled in terms of virtual energy ever so slightly to get out and take a second or two out of Banani's lead. It wasn't quite enough to come out in the overall lead, of course, with the way that the cars are being turned around in the pit lane as they both avoid the Corvette of Jerome Mitral. That is very compliant, and indeed has to be. It would be absolutely mortifying, not least for Jerome, if he ended up deciding who won this race, as Banani has a little bit of a slow turn in because he's trying to avoid the Aston Martin in front of him. And now Lucas Kreuzer is in prime position to attack into that first chicane here. Banani gonna have to dig deep here to hold on to this one.
He's definitely dumped a bit of battery there as Banani. But here comes Kreuzer. Is he going to go for the inside line? He's sizing it up. Is he late on the brakes? Can he slow it down? That's too deep for the Toyota. Valiant effort, but he's going to bounce over that curb. Back through into the lead, it goes Banani, but that is going to cost Kreuzer. It was a valiant effort. He's now have to chase down the Porsche all over again.
And that's been the dominant thing in the hypercar battles in this race, isn't it? How late can you get on the brakes without locking up, without absolutely destroying your tires and making the temperatures skyrocket? As now it's Banani's turn as he tries to lap Weisenberger. He has to cut that second chicane, and now Kreuzer will be noticing the traffic is playing a huge part in this race, knows he needs to be careful here, but also not lose too much time behind Weisenberger. And Kreuzer gets through. Banani again sees that must be Maki Yupi that he has to negotiate here. So the pressure from Kreuzer, he may have lost a little bit of time in all this, but he's still very much in play here and very much a presence, maybe not right in the mirrors of Banani, but very much on his mind.
Yeah, absolutely so. But once again, the traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. Christian Banani now has the opportunity to try and sprint away with a bit of slipstream from Giovannini. But yeah, Kreuzer, he'd have been cursing and then counting his stars with the sequence of those few corners. Here we see Barnabas Fizikis now all over the back and nearly into the back of Adam Sapler coming through Parabolica. The yellow Ferrari pretty much as minding his own business at the moment, but well aware that that Peugeot is buzzing around his tailpipes. Bearing in mind, every time, this is really bad, every time I see a yellow flag, I always assume it's the same car. We all know which one I'm assuming it is, but I really shouldn't do that. That's very, very unfair on aforementioned driver. Oh, is that a bit deep though for Sapler? Is Fazikis forcing the error? Couldn't capitalize on it, though. The Peugeot remains behind the Ferrari.
Yep, certainly Fazekas is putting a bit of a slow burn, but he's starting to come good at this point in the race as Adam Zappler starting to struggle and fall off the back of Francesco Adamu. Adamu, who they were closing in on a little bit. Adamu, of course, is saving that bit of virtual energy. Now he sort of gets to spend it and reap the benefits of that. So while we're here, 10 minutes to go, now might be a good time with the lead. The lead is a little bit split apart to just get in a quick ad read for the Coach Dave Delta Pro Series as Fazekas dips a few wheels into the gravel at Lesmo 2. So VMS Pro Series, the gold split, is proudly sponsored by Coach Dave Delta. It's what the premier setup and driver analysis platform, not just in Le Mans Ultimate, but several other sims such as ACC, Assetto Corsa, iRacing, and several others too. There's a link in the live description. You can click there to get started and begin your Coach Dave Delta journey today.
Absolutely so. So back to the racing action then as we continue to watch this battle for 5th position.
I will not bow to any sponsor. All right, okay.
Adam Zappler is not bowing to Barnabas Fazekas at this point. The Ferrari fending off every advance of the Peugeot driver being piloted by... Peugeot driver being piloted? No, Peugeot being piloted by Barnabas Fazekas.
Fazekas is like an android and not a human being. Yeah, but,
I'm sure he's been called
Hungarian.
Worse,
He's Hungarian. That might be what you were searching for. Adamu, look, he started to close in on Menard, 1.4 seconds. Like I said, I think he's really planned this well, knowing that the first stint, it was going to be a little bit tougher to pass Menard. Both of them had been preparing for the end of the race. But it looks like Adamu might have a little bit more in hand at this phase, but it's nip and tuck between the two. I think it's way too late for the Ferraris to get in the conversation for victory here. Cruiser and Bernani have got it locked down. In particular, Bernani, who's been, since taking the lead, he's just been absolutely excellent in this one.
That he has. It's going to take a major disaster for the front two, for the Ferraris to really get involved in that winning battle, or battle for the win, I should say. But, oh, and again, you see Zappler look like he went a tiny bit deep into the beginning part of the Ascari. Fazekas not able to capitalize on it. Decent exit from the yellow Ferrari towards the Parabolica. Once again, 8 more minutes to go. 6-7 laps, give or take. So it's time to dig deep. These drivers will be probably absolutely melting if they're getting the heats that we are here in the UK. So they'll be wanting that checker flag to come out pretty quick. Certainly Christian Bernani will be wanting that checker flag to come out in a hurry.
Yeah, certainly he's worked so hard, and this is where when you get to the end of even just an hour-long race, the wheels certainly starts to get heavier. Bernani has not won before in the gold split. It's such a high tier. It's the highest you can get without being in the platinum split, of course. And you know, several teams, even in platinum split, might be seeing this performance from Bernani under huge pressure from Lucas Cruiser, beating championship leader Jimmy Menard by 4, 5, 6 seconds now. And they might be thinking that they might want to get Bernani in their squad in the future, because of course we have got the driver swaps on the way. We could be looking at a lot more drivers in the platinum split next season than we are currently seeing, depending, of course, on the format that VMS ends up going for at the moment. Individual drivers, max length for 2.4 hour distances. That seems to work pretty well, but we'll have to see by popular demand what everybody decides to do then, as we now cut back to Galetti. Of course, he pit right at the start, and he's finally started to catch back up to Jerome Mitral, and Mitral, it must be said, has assisted him a little bit by facing the wrong way a couple of times. Nonetheless, he's still ahead. 6.5 minutes left to go. There's every chance Mitral could keep his head and keep that 9th position, which he's worked so hard to try and stay in. But the Corvette here has been rapidly caught by the Aston Martin here, and Galetti senses his prey is finally in sight. He's got to fight for something in this race, and it looks like his moment has finally arrived.
So it would seem, but he's got to find that difference. Jerome Mitral, he's not just jumping out of the way, is he? He's making the Aston Martin fight for it. And why not? Well, okay, commentator cursed from me on that one. So just as I say that, Mitral then writes his name in. Well, he doesn't spin. He just flirts with the dust on the outside of Lesmo 2 And yeah, I don't think Jerome's going to fight that one too much. Stayed to the inside line, made Galetti go the long way around, but yeah, that one, unfortunately, once that momentum was lost, the Corvette had no answer, and the Aston then goes through, demoting Mitral to the wooden spoon spot in GT3. Still, this battle for fifth position continues with the Hypercars, Sapler and Fazekas, neither of them giving any quarter.
The yellow flag briefly out there. I assume because we just cut away from Mitral that it might have been somebody else having a bit of an off there. But nobody in the top 5, it would seem, as yeah, Fazekas continues to try and become part of that as we cut back to Liam Rance now, who is still fighting away with Nico Barclay. So Barclay, was he able to overcut, or has he since gotten past Liam Rance here as they fight to try and finish in the top 6? You can see Weisenberger just up the road ahead of both of them.
The Aston was ahead of the Mustang earlier on in the race, so the pit stop strategy not working out for Liam Rance. Whoops, one of them flirting with the dust, so I suspect that was the Aston that was kicking up a bit into the sky. Nico Barclay then doing almost the same thing at Lesmo 1, and still this battle of Ferrari versus Porsche is continuing for 5th position. So yeah,
there is a Porsche leading though, so
there is a Porsche leading. There is a Toyota in second. So the Peugeot, you've got to give it to Fazekas. He has tried everything, and Sapler has had an answer to every single attempt that Fazekas has tried to deploy. And Menard and Adamu have we've barely seen them. They've just kind of held on to 3rd and 4th all race long.
Yeah, they're not far apart though, but this is the slightly closer battle at Fazekas and Sapler, the 2 Hungarians. Fazekas in that Peugeot just looks a little bit more confident on the brakes into the first chicane there. As the longer we get into this race, I think Fazekas might try a sort of desperate dive or something if Sapler gives him half a chance. And we've got, Jerome Mitral presenting an opportunity almost immediately as Sapler meets him right at the apex of the braking zone. And Fazekas, he's got to plan this well if he wants to get through here.
Did he deploy a little bit too early? Mitral doing the only thing he could and just jumps out of the way. Now this is Barnaby Fazekas. I'll get the right consonants out in a minute. Oh, but again, the door just gets closed in his fate. Adam Sapler dumping the battery to keep the Peugeot behind as they come past Kasperschik in the McLaren. Now, is this another opportunity for Fazekas? Less than 2 tenths between the two. 3 minutes remain on the clock. Can the Peugeot just find that extra bit of momentum he needs? It's a 1/10 and a half between them, but there's just no pace difference. Is he going to bounce on the inside of the first chicane? No, he doesn't. Fazekas, he must be just screaming, what do I have to do?
Yeah, of course, running right behind that Ferrari is not going to do the temperatures any good. But yeah, certainly he good on the brakes there, but there wasn't quite the overlap to allow him to do that. You sense that, and it's been a bit of a weakness of the Peugeot. Very good. It can be very good if you set up well in qualifying, but it's so tough to be sort of faster on the straights than the direct opposition. Then, as we now look on board with Liam Rance staring at the back of Nico Barclay. 7th would still be, I think, Liam Rance's best result. He's certainly put up a good fight and certainly had a better run than the other Aston Martin in this race of Galetti. But yeah, nonetheless, to miss out by just half a second to Nico Barclay with 2 minutes to go, that's going to be frustrating. Meanwhile, Cruiser has got a bit of a shift on and closed the gap to Banani to 1 second. Is Christian Banani starting to feel the pressure then, as the first win is almost in his grasp, but Cruiser has still got designs and snatching away from him. Banani's got the advantage when it comes to virtual energy. He can push a bit more. Cruiser might have to be a bit careful here, but there's not long left in this race now. If he's got anything left, now's the time to deploy.
2 laps remain in this race here in Monza, and is the traffic still going to play its part? Well, potentially. And Cruiser knows what he has to do, but it's just getting that overlap. It's getting the pace he needs over Banani, who, again, knows what he needs to do to defend against the Toyota behind. Rance and Barclay still locked in their battle for 6th position. There are points of position still being fought with just a minute and a bit left on the clock.
Yep, Duran still under a little bit of pressure from Kabaki, who will start to close in, and now Banani sees the Aston Martin and the bright blue Mustang dueling away right in front of him. Can he clear both of them before he gets to Lesmo 1? No! Oh, not spotted in time there by the Mustang, and there we go. That actually allows Cruiser to clear both of them in one fell swoop as well. That could not have worked out much worse for Banani, but only one more lap to go. He just has to keep it on the island as Rance now fancies a run at Barclay.
That could have gone horribly wrong for all of them. I was just envisioning Banani and Barclay coming together there, but thankfully they didn't. Cruiser must have been thinking, damn it, I've caught traffic at the wrong time. Banani's gotten through it, and then suddenly the tables have turned. Now it is everything left. It is full deploy. It is push the throttle as hard as you can. Feast or famine. It is all or nothing. Do or die with 1 lap to go.
Yep, Cruiser is trying to set up a move here, but he needs to make sure he gets the run out of Parabolica. There's not a lot of traffic to help him on this final lap. There is Maki Yupi just ahead of them. They cross the line with a couple of seconds left to go, but of course Banani, no chance of slowing the pace up to make it 1 lap less for the leaders. They've got to negotiate that Mustang into the braking zone. Maki Yupi wants no part of this, sensibly sticks to the outside line, and both hypercars get through, and here comes Liam Rance. Got to be late on the brakes. That Aston Martin, if he wants that SIG position, it's very risky. Barclay tries to turn in. Oh, there was a little bit of lag there, I think. Rance sort of hung in the middle of the road a bit longer than expected, so Barclay's had to cut the corner, and surely he's going to have to let Liam Rance through here. There's a bit of an after you routine here. Liam Rance says, okay, I'll go then.
Well, I think Liam Rance was like, well, no, that was your corner, but I suspect, as you say, because the Mustang had to cut the corner, then Barclay was doing the right thing. And with both of them being very, very sportsmanlike. Oh no, Cruiser's now stuck behind the BMW again. Is that his one opportunity, or his remaining opportunity to attack for the lead? Oh, just a handful of corners left to go as we scream towards Ascari.
Damu is closing on Menard big time here, 6/10 between them, so there might be a sting in the tail for the fight for third here, and Menard's so crucial for the championship that he stays on the podium. Here's Liam Rance, now behind Barclay again, wants to get through without either of them cutting the chicane, I guess, so he's running out of time though, but Banani is surely going to do this now. What a fantastic win at home for the Italian.
Absolutely true, but you've got to give it to Lucas Cruiser. He did everything he possibly could. But your winner for round number 5 here in Monza is the Porsche of Christian Banani. He comes home to take the win. He is chased home by Lucas Cruiser. Jimmy Menard, the championship leader, comes home in 3rd position, chased home by Francesco Adamu, and Adam Sapler is going to be next over the line. Giovannini takes the win for GT3, Doran in 2nd, Kibaki in 3rd, Maki Yupi 4th, Weissenberger. It will round out the top 5 for GT3 as the rest of the drivers then filter their way through. There's Martin Kasperczyk in the McLaren. Bit of a distant 8th position for him. Still pressing on.
Barclay held on to 6th from Rance, by the way.
Yeah, again, they kind of did the gentleman thing. I mean, they've been racing for so long. It was kind of like, after you, exactly as you say, playing a game of no after you. But again, very, very sportsmanlike of both of them. But Kasperczyk bringing home the McLaren, and in the background, he's going to be Jerome Mitra, despite writing his name in most of the gravel track, despite the spins, still comes home in 9th place.
Won't it be the Aston Martin of Gabbiati Galetti in 9th, and then Mitra?
Oh, beg your pardon.
Mitra a couple of laps down, but still gets home in the top 10. And did well actually to hold on for 9th for as long as he did. And now he doesn't need those fronts or those rears anymore. He can put up a smoke show and again tap the wall. He's kept it out of the wall for the most part today, actually.
Well, he doesn't really need the car anymore, so he considering what he must feel about the thing, he probably will want to throw it in the wall.
There we go. First time that a Porsche 963 has won in the hypercar class in the VMS history. Could that be the first of many now? Will everybody be desperate to enter the platinum split in a Porsche?
Well, that is the thing, is that Christian Banani showing what the German marque is capable of. His only other podium so far this season has been 2nd place at Imola, wasn't at Fuji, and has had a couple of 7th position since then. So that win is going to be a huge boost for the German. But yeah, that was a fabulous race. It was tense battling throughout, and that is exactly what we love here at VMS.
Yeah, I wonder if David Levy was watching that and might be tempted to show up in the platinum split because he's the only Porsche driver there. So having seen that performance, that might be enough to tempt him back into the fold. Who knows?
So that is how the GT3 standings look then for this race. William Giovannini taking the win. Zach Doran chased him home in second. Adrian Kabaki in third. Juha Makiapi fourth. Julian Weissenberger in fifth. Nico Barkley sixth. Liam Rant seventh. Marce Kasperschik in eighth. Marseille Galetti in ninth. And Jerome Mitral rounding out the top 10. We did lose a couple of our GT3s in the course of the race. Our Hypercar contingent, Christian Bonani chased home for the win from Lucas Kreuzer in second. Jimmy Menard in third in the Ferrari. Francesco Adamu in fourth. Adam Sapler in fifth position with Barnabas Fazekas in sixth. Marvin Butson in seventh. And we did lose Olivier Demoliens in the course of the race.
Oh, look at that. Just a 10th between, only a second between the top four, essentially. So very, very close, actually, in the end. But the Ferraris tried to be strategic, but they couldn't really chew their way back into that top two battle. It was really all about Cruiser and Bonani. And yeah, breakthrough performance from Bonani. But let's not forget about Giovannini making it two Italians winning in both classes at Monza. So the local... if you're no Ferraris winning today, but if you're a fan of any of these local drivers, then you certainly had a lot to cheer today.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not be surprised if no one comes for an interview because I imagine everyone has just melted. So
Yeah.
it would
I
not
mean, that
surprise
works for me. I got to go put the bins out, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I too am struggling in the heat, so it doesn't look like anybody has come forward to have a chat to us. As much as we do like to have a chat to our drivers, it is not mandatory. Some drivers not so comfortable with having a post-race interview, so that is completely understandable. So yes, we will wrap it up here.
Oh no, we got somebody.
Oh,
Christian Bonani has shown up.
excellent!
Can I
Drag him
drag him
in.
in? Right.
He
Okay.
is.
No, don't put him into staff hangout. That's not where I want him. Here we go.
Christian, are you with us?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Well, winning in Tifosi territory—that's got to feel very, very special.
Yeah, really special indeed. So by now, 2 races at home, Imola and Monza, 2 podiums, and I wasn't expecting a win, certainly.
So it was you and Lucas all race long. Your pace was just unmatched by everybody else. So talk us through the moment that you went past Lucas. Was that when you were intending to go past to take the lead, or was it a case of, okay, he's in trouble, I'm going for it?
Yeah, no, I mean, the pace that Lucas was having, it was a really, really hard pace. I struggled to keep up with him, but overall we flew away from the other guys, and yeah, when I saw him a little bit in struggle with the GT3s with traffic, I went for it. Just that.
Nicely done. And I guess you must have been just constantly watching your mirrors. Was there any point where you thought, right, that's it, I'm safe? Or was it just constantly feeling Lucas glaring into your soul?
Probably the only moment where I was kind of safe, where I felt safe, was like when I had like 2 seconds of margin from Lucas. But then the last few laps, I found the GT3s on the worst spot possible, and he came behind me.
Yeah, the traffic kind of played both ways, didn't it? So it was all that
Yeah.
several times.
So yeah, first him and then me, but really, really good race, really intense and really hot also.
Yeah, a very, very well deserved win. Great stuff. Any questions, Ed?
Just mainly congratulations, Kristen, because you put in a very, very entertaining showing, you and Lucas, to be honest. Obviously, you were 7th in the championship going in. Now you've got that first win under your belt. Obviously, there's the one dropped round, if I'm not mistaken, so that helps a little bit. Do you think you can get into the top 3 by the end of the season and beat these Ferraris? Because the BOP, it does seem like the Porsche is a much more competitive prospect than it seemed at the beginning of the season, and it wasn't that slow to begin with.
Yeah, definitely. The BOP was a strong part of this season, of the performance of the season. I was kind of on the back foot the first part of the season, but I've never gave up, especially at Sebring. Sebring was really tough. And then now with the new update and the new BOP, it's a little bit more in my comfort zone. So yeah, I hope it will be a really great second part of the season. I hope I can deliver till the end. So yeah, just hope for it.
Well, I believe you are in 6th or 5th in the championship now. So, yeah, just those 4 Ferraris ahead of you that you've got to worry about. But you had more than the measure of them today. Thanks for putting on a great show for us, Christian. And best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you really much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Awesome stuff. So wonderful win there for Christian Banani in the Hypercar contingent.
And
Doesn't
I
look like...
promise to make no more banana puns about Banani's last name.
I do not believe you at all, sir. Well,
Well,
no more tonight.
he
Maybe.
didn't put a foot wrong today. He was
No.
the golden banana.
No slip ups whatsoever from Christian Banani.
Yeah.
So that is it for tonight's festivities. We get to do this all over again next week for the Platinum Split. They get to pound the roads of Monza. So you know where to find us. We hope to see you there. Until next time, thank you very much and good night.